Yes, good morning. Welcome to the Innov8 Virtual Insights for May. I'm delighted this morning to be joined by a couple of colleagues, both Tim Bradley and Chris Housecroft, who are going to be talking us through this morning AI automation and giving us a bit of an overview of what that looks like within the Sage ecosystem, and also touching a little bit more on some wider AI for IT and within your businesses. So without much further ado, I'm going to pass straight over to Tim. Good morning, Tim.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules. Today, I've got the pleasure of walking you through some of the AI and automation offerings around Sage, Microsoft, and kind of how it all comes together and works in perfect harmony. With that being said, a little bit about myself. I've been working for Innov8 Technology for around a year and 9 months and specialise mainly in Sage Intacct, but also have a lot of exposure to the other products that we offer as Innov8 Technology. And hopefully, we're going to be able to give you guys a lot of insights of how you can potentially use AI and maybe even kind of other avenues that you can go down in terms of your tech stack and to actually utilise AI and automation. With that being said, we're going to start off with looking at Sage Intacct AI and automation. I've got a really quick video for you guys because I like to bring things in with a bang. So I'm going to go quiet for just a little moment and we're going to take a quick glimpse at what Sage Copilot looked like. And there is potentially our first look at Sage Copilot. We are going to dive into the system at certain points during the webinar to kind of get a closer look at Sage Copilot and how we can actually utilize it within the system. But there we can get a bit of an overview. And next, we're going to come to my list view. There we can see here, just to talk about some of these points, and we're going to be able to elaborate on kind of where AI is and kind of how automation can be utilized. So kind of the main one that's not really going to shock anyone in the webinar and the kind of simplest form of automation really is integrations. So I can tell you guys that Sage Intacct has a extremely robust open API that we can tap into plenty of different systems as long as they have open APIs. And that's kind of the first part of automation really. So it's how we transfer data from one system to another. It's a very common use case with Sage Intacct. With the integration being as kind of strong and robust as it is, a lot of companies are actually kind of starting to look at those type of integrations that maybe they wouldn't have had access to before. But like I say, that won't come as a shock to anyone. We also then have automated workflows within Sage Intacct. So in Sage Intacct, we can literally build customized workflows where we can then add in approval levels and lots of other different types of automation as well. But it's certainly one aspect of how some businesses start to look at using Sage Intacct for their approvals and kind of routing that automatically within the system. We also have some invoice processing, and there's lots of developments going on around this. We have like three-way matching. We have the ability to drag and drop documents into Sage Intacct. And then we also have journal entries for consistent compliance. So there's lots of kind of stuff to go over there. Then we can actually talk a little bit about Sage Copilot and outlier detection. So there's a lot of areas with Sage Copilot this kind of taps into. We've got the search help, we've got the close assistance, sub-ledger reconciliation, so making sure that GL matches up to the AP and AR ledgers as it should. We've got budget and variance analysis, outlier detection, and then also our finance intelligence assistant. So what we're going to actually do at this point is I'm going to go into the system. I'm going to take a bit of a dive into some of these areas so we can actually get an understanding of them in a bit more detail. I'm going to share my screen. So you guys should now be able to see that switched over to my Sage Intacct instance. So straight away, I've got a lovely looking project manager dashboard, or CFO dashboard, sorry, in this instance. And we can see that it's quite aesthetic in terms of components and what we've actually got on screen here, but this is not what we are here to look at today. The first place I'm going to start off by going to is my standard landing page for Sage Intacct. And then where I'm going to come to is my release notes. And the reason that we're coming in here is we're going to get more of an understanding of developments and features that are being released consistently within Sage Intacct. At this point, for anybody who's not as familiar with Sage Intacct, it's probably quite important to note that all of the upgrades are done automatically because it's a fully cloud system, and we have quarterly updates. So we have 4 of these a year, and then as you can see on screen, they are then split out into the different areas so we can get an understanding of these developments. If I come to Sage AI and automation, we can see some of the updates that were done about 2 weeks ago in the latest R2 release. And here we can click into these and we can just get a bit of an understanding of the kind of freeway matching feature that has now been released within Sage Intacct around our AP process. We can see things like the finance intelligence agents, but if we wanted to go a little bit further back, absolutely we could, and we could know what happened in R1 and also other past releases. Here, I can click into this one, and then we can start seeing some of the kind of other updates that we had, like close analytics, early adopter, so all around kind of speeding up this month-end process, which is going to tap into the data in Sage Copilot. Coming back to my system, one of the first, maybe more simpler forms of automation that we have within the system resides within our GL module. I can come in here and show you guys how we can start to create and build up our specific recurring journals. So I'm actually going to do this from inside one of my entities. I'm going to open this up, come back to my GL, and there we can see on the screen, like they say in Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier. So we can click into this, we can get an understanding of the recurring journal that I've actually set up. And we can see some of the dimensions that I've pre-filled on this. We can see the GL account, and then we can also see the credits and debits, and also a memo that I have added in here. So by setting this up, I can then come into my schedule, and basically we're choosing the frequency of when this journal is going to be posted for us automatically. So once this is set up, there's nothing else really to do in terms of this journal being posted. Everything is going to be done automatically. So we can actually see that first part of automation of how we can use the system. Then the second part I would like to show you guys is our transaction templates. So it works in quite a similar way to what we have with recurring journals, but we can just set up a template. I can click into this and we can get an understanding. It looks quite similar to what we saw on recurring journals. We kind of set up the back end of it, and the idea of using transaction templates for journals is that if I come back out of here, is that we can just go in and enter the amount as and when we choose to then post this journal. I can come in here, enter my amount for my 2 different lines for credits or debits, click on save, and we've now just created that journal. The next part that is probably a little bit flashier for you guys that I mentioned is Sage Copilot. This is Sage's main offering within Sage Intacct, and I'm going to come back to my top level to show this to you guys. So as you can see here, as soon as I open it up, it kind of gives me a bit of an idea of some of the things that we can do within Sage Copilot, including run our close assistant. I'm going to click into this, and then it's going to ask me when I want to close my books up until. Because I've got a little bit of bad housekeeping going on within this demo system. So I'm going to actually click in, and we're going to bring this a little bit closer to home. I'm going to come to, let's say, January 26. I'm going to click on OK. Then it's going to return me lots of different tasks that I need to do to be able to complete my month-end close successfully. I've clicked into that, and as we can see here, we've got it split into different modules. First, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and I'm actually going to click on View Closed Books Overview. This is going to detail to me when my different entities modules were closed. You can get an understanding and an overview of all of my different entities, and then I'm going to open this back up. Now that I've got that understanding, I can start kind of making some progress in regards to taking off these tasks that I've got from the system. And I can say, yeah, that's great. I want to go ahead and review my unposted invoices. If I close this back down, what we're then going to see is a list view that is actually opened up with some preset filters for me. So we can see that we have a state for my invoices of being in draft. And we've also got a date range that is being applied based on that reporting period that I gave it earlier. There's some automation there that we're literally just typing in preset questions or clicking on buttons, and we're able to get an understanding of this information that was otherwise quite arduous to obtain. What we can then do is scroll down, and we can start looking at preparing the AP reconciliation reports. I can click on this. It's then going to generate me an insight after I choose my entity, who I want to do this for. And it might take a little moment just to actually develop this insight, but what I can then do is actually come in here, and we can get an understanding of one that I made earlier. And there we can actually see a variance has been detected between my AP ledger and the general ledger in USA1. So we can actually see that insight that I've just actioned has just been developed, but we can carry on using the one that we see here. I can scroll down, we can see that we can run the AP subledger reconciliation report. We can also get an understanding of the top 5 possible reasons for this variance. If I want to click into the variance number, I can do, and it's going to open up that subledger reconciliation report for me. You'll have to ignore some of the figures that you might see on screen. Like I say, this is a demo system, so the housekeeping isn't the best, but then we can scroll down and we can get an understanding of this subledger reconciliation to see the variance as well. If I come back, if we wanted to then access our previous chat on Close Assistant, quite easily, I'd be able to do this. We could scroll up and we can get an understanding of going into these different modules. So the AR is quite similar to our AP module in terms of what we've got to do to close that down. For our cash management, we're going to view those bank reconciliations, and with the general ledger, we're going to see those unposted journal entries. Then we can go to close all of those down and then hopefully have a successful month-end close. Another form of AI that we have in Sage Copilot in the system is our search help. So if I click on this here, this is going to kind of act as a mini assistant for me. I could ask a question in here, such as, how do I create a fixed asset? Search help is then going to return me some information based on the keyword or question that I ask it. What I do quite like about this feature is that if it gives me a step-by-step of how to do things, what I can actually do is navigate within the system. So let's say this gave me a step-by-step to follow. I could literally click on the buttons within the system, and that step-by-step actually stays open for me, as opposed to having to use 2 different browser tabs or 2 different screens. I can follow the steps and actually do the clicks at the same time. This actually taps into our help and support page, and this is a fantastic resource. It's got so much information in here. It really is a wealth of knowledge for anyone who's an existing user or new users of the system as well. Then we can then begin to look at what we have in terms of Close Workspace, which taps into our Close Assistant. So I come into here. I'm going to show you guys a dashboard that's not going to look particularly great because of the data that's within this demo system. But you can see here how we can start to build up checklists, tasks, so on and so forth, which is actually going to then tap into that kind of Sage Copilot wizard that we have to then enable us to close down this month end as successfully as possible. What we do also have, which is quite a small, insignificant feature within the system, but something that's going to become more and more prevalent in the future is that when it comes to developing templates for, let's say, emails or anything of the sort, we can do so now with Copilot directly within Sage Intacct. So if I scroll down, we can actually see an example of an email template that we can develop using certain fields, kind of like MailMerge, for actually pulling through this information, so such as, say, the employee name within the system. We can choose who we're going to send this to and actually draft this email for us automatically. Again, we're going to be able to use this in invoice processing. If we're sending out emails to do with the printed document templates that we have, we're going to be able to use this feature as well. The next part of the system for us to look at is actually back in GL. We're going to go to journal entries. I'm going to take a little look at outlier detection. So I come to my cash receipts journal, for example. I'm going to come back into my transactions actually. I'm going to click into this one. I'm going to choose an example, which choose the top one. And what we can see here is our outlier detection column. So outlier detection is a form of AI within the system. And what outlier detection can do is once you have enough data within your Sage Intacct instance, it's going to start to develop trends. So for example, it might pick up that if I'm coming in consistently and creating transactions or invoices from £5 up into, say, £500, but then one day I come in and I create a transaction by accident for £500,000. I added a few extra zeros onto my transaction. Outlier detection, if we have approvals turned on in our journals, is going to actually pick this up and flag it to me and say that, Tim, you need to go ahead and actually approve this transaction before it's posted because it doesn't look quite right. We see an anomaly in this trend of data. It sits outside of that trend, so you need to approve this one first. Not just amounts, but outlier detection can also flag to you when a wrong GL account is actually used on a transaction from seeing similar trends of data of your transactions that are being coded to certain GLs. We can then come into our AP list. So I'm going to come to my accounts payable module. I'm going to take a little look at some of the AP automation. So here I've come to my AP list. What I'm going to do here is click on upload. I'm going to expand my screen for you guys. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my file explorer. And what we are doing here is transferring some supplier documents or supplier invoices into my Sage Intacct instance. So we can do this by dragging and dropping, or we could email these invoices in. I'm going to go ahead and choose multiple of these to actually pull into the system. If I pressed the right buttons, it'd be good. I'm going to come back here, come to upload, pull up my file explorer again, and reselect those invoices for you guys. Let's get a few. We're going to drag these over, place them into our drag and drop, and we can see a preview down at the bottom here of these documents that are going to be created for us. I'm going to choose my entity of USA1. I'm going to say to the system, yeah, we want to go ahead and create these documents within the system. Then I can come to my automated transactions. And here we can see that the top two are analyzing. It will pull up another 2 or 3, depending on how many I chose to actually pull into the system. But if we look a little bit further down, these are the same examples that I've just transferred over. But I did these ones earlier on this morning to show you guys a better example. It's going to take a little bit of time to analyze the ones that I've just pulled through, but it doesn't take that long. I'd say maybe a minute or two is quite normal. But we can actually see and click into one of these and see the information that is being picked up. So I did this process earlier and then I left it at the analyzing stage, and I just wanted to come back and show you guys where it kind of gets up to in regards to that. So here we can see that it's actually said that a transaction with the same invoice number was already existing within my Sage Intacct system. And we can actually see that the system thinks that there might be duplicates of this invoice within the system. So again, already kind of keeping us uniform in terms of that housekeeping. If I scroll down, we can get an understanding of the information that we have. So if I scroll down on my invoice as well, we can actually see that this is being brought across in a summary view from this invoice. So we can see that I've got my screwdriver, tool bag and hammer here, and it's actually come across as one line. If I wanted to expand this out and have my 3 lines, like we see there, absolutely, we could do that there. We've got our tax down at the bottom. As you can see on screen, we've got access to see this document of the invoice really easily within the system as well. Really kind of speeding up the whole process around that AP automation piece. I can click into my history. We'll be able to see any approvals that might be done in the future on this, on the back of it, uploading it as well. The next part to show you guys and talk about is another system that we have that we offer called Use. So I'm going to cross over to my Use system. And where this links in at this point is with AP automation. So Sage Intacct has a native AP automation offering, but we do also have some other solutions that tap into Sage Intacct automatically with pre-built connectors. And one of those systems is called Use. Use have a fantastic OCR technology, so optical character recognition. And where their solution can go one step further at the moment than Sage Intacct, they can actually read your emails and it can pick up on any invoices that have been sent to your, let's say, Outlook inbox. It can pick those up automatically. It can push them into the Use system because it recognizes that they are invoices, and then it can push them into Sage Intacct automatically as well, provided that there's no approvals needing to be done in between that stage. So it's a fantastic solution. And one other part of the Use system that I do really like, and the reason why I've actually opened up their system, is to look at collect my invoices. So quite similar with the AP automation in Sage Intacct, we have the ability to drag and drop. We have the ability to email those invoices straight away. But like I say, Use is going to go one step further. It's going to automatically read them, push them into the system. And we can also come in here to the supplier invoice capture. I'm going to choose one of my entities. And what we're doing here is we're actually connecting to supplier portals. So we're going to be able to see a range of businesses on screen. Some are pretty common of brands that we'd expect to see. But also I could type in, let's say, a keyword just to see some of the other examples of suppliers that we can connect to in the Use system. And the reason why we want to connect to these supplier portals is that we can actually choose to download their invoices from these suppliers automatically at a frequency of our choice. So I could actually connect to British Gas Portal and I could automatically download, or have the system automatically download their invoices for me without any manual intervention. Coming back to my slide, at the point where we were at, we mentioned invoice capture, three-way line level matching, and that kind of how we can use but also native AP automation offerings from Intacct. And then also the next point to talk about really is real-time reporting integration. So it's being able to have with platforms like Sage Intacct and Use, because there are full cloud offerings that obviously pulling through that data from users who are using the system. They're saving records, they're creating transactions, they're updating their records that are going to affect these GL accounts. And when it comes to reporting, we can then pull through that data automatically and see this on dashboards in real time. Again, fantastic in terms of the integrations that we've got with Sage Intacct, and then being able to pull data from various areas and then get a holistic overview of that reporting as well. Because you guys enjoyed the video, the last video so much, I've now got another video to show you guys, and quite similar to what we've already seen, what we saw, but this is actually going to go one step further and actually show you guys a little bit more about Finance Intelligence Assistant, which hasn't actually been released yet. So this is an upcoming feature, a really exciting one. I think when people kind of visualize Sage Copilot and AI within Sage Intacct, this is really kind of what they imagine straight away.
Introducing the Sage Intacct Finance Intelligence Agent. A smarter way to work with Sage Intacct, designed to turn financial data into clear, confident action. It helps finance teams understand their financials, surface trends, answer complex questions, and take action, all without building reports or searching through data. Let's start by asking a simple question. How many outstanding bills do I have? Sage Copilot instantly pulls live data from your financial system and presents clear totals and details in one place. With one click, you can expand the analysis to see a broader picture of the data reviewed, with additional context, charts, trends, and supporting details. No reports to run, no filters to apply, just accurate answers when you need them. Once you have the data, the next step is turning it into insight. You can ask questions like, which one should I pay first? It applies financial context like due dates, early payment discounts, and cash position, using the same logic finance teams rely on every day to recommend which bills to pay first. And when you want to understand the reasoning behind the answer, the How Copilot Worked This Out feature shows you exactly how it arrived at the recommendation. You are not just getting a recommendation. You are getting insights powered by Sage AI, purpose-built and trained for accounting, not generic off-the-shelf AI. What you've just seen is only the beginning. Over time, the Finance Intelligence Agent will connect to more of your financial data, develop new skills, and support more actions across your workflows, all designed to help you reduce bottlenecks, spend less time on manual work, and focus more on the decisions that move the business forward.
Some really exciting stuff. I think that's going to be a fantastic feature for Sage Intacct users. What I really did like there, it was how Sage Copilot can actually show you how it arrived at an answer. It can give you a breakdown of how Sage Copilot got to this answer to give you. I think that's fantastic in terms of being able to have trust within the AI that we're using. I think it's certainly in my mind, whenever I use AI, I've always got that kind of thing in the back of my mind of how much can I actually trust what I'm seeing on screen right now. And yeah, that's going to kind of alleviate that a little bit. That brings us on to Microsoft Copilot and agentic AI. Again, some really exciting stuff going on here. In kind of first protocol, I suppose, to talk about is those kind of AI products that we've got out there, so such as Microsoft Copilot. And I suppose one point to add in here in terms of data governance and how people are using AI day to day to kind of utilize AI in the kind of correct way that most businesses and organizations would generally imagine us to use it. Having a business account with a provider like Copilot is one way to actually keep your industry and your organization in line with those ways. I think where everyone, or pretty much most people now, are aware of some form of AI, so whether that's going to be ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, is that people are going to use this day to day in their kind of roles, responsibilities, whether that's just asking them questions, asking them to draft an email. But obviously, if those guys are kind of using their own personal accounts, you don't know what data is at risk. You don't know what data is then being entered into these AI systems that you have no control over, no say in how the kind of data is governed. Whereas if you guys were obviously to have a business account, straight away, you've got a lot more control and a lot more data governance. But yeah, I think Copilot is absolutely fantastic. I really like this. I think it's fantastic for being able to play around in your other applications. So kind of using it for your Outlook, using it for your presentations, to develop board packs and things like that. But then we've got like data analysis and enhancement. So we look on the second bullet point that we've got there, it's being able to summarize these data sets and actually give insights to the stakeholders that need them most. Workflow automation, fantastic one. But I'm going to actually come to the very last bullet point here. I'm conscious of time that I've got for you guys, because I think agentic AI is certainly, in my mind, probably the next big wave of how we all imagine AI to then be reshaping industries, and certainly the tech industry is one that's going to be affected by that. So I come to my next slide. You can actually get a bit more of a tangible idea in our minds of how this agentic AI is going to transform the workplace. And here we can see a table, and I've got, firstly, in the first column, we've got our areas that are going to be affected or could be affected. In the second column, we've got the processes as they might be today. We've got the humans that are performing these processes. So on invoice processing, we've got like a human is going to open up this ERP system. They're going to read the invoice that they've received from the supplier, key in that information, code it, chase any missing info. But then if we have an agentic AI in place of that human, that agentic AI is going to be able to actually interpret any data, quite similar to a human, maybe even better, validate it, match POs, and then post or escalate as they see fit on the back of that. Some other kind of quite standard things I think will get replaced with agentic AI in the future would then be if we look at onboarding. So just being able to orchestrate those steps across different systems, track completion, and again, escalate things to certain stakeholders when it's needed. Some really exciting stuff. I think over the next kind of 8 to 12 months, we're going to see so much of this actually coming into our day-to-day lives and seeing it within the workplace. Then, want to talk about for you guys, again, this is extremely exciting, is Sage Intacct AI Gateway. What is that? I hear you ask. Sage Intacct AI Gateway is being developed to actually plug our Sage Intacct instance into our kind of Copilot, our Claude, our ChatGPT. So these AI systems that we have, we can actually tap into our financial ERP product now in Sage Intacct. What that's going to give us in the future is then being able to kind of build out workflows, connect ecosystems, but we're going to actually be able to translate financial data and information across our different business systems. So for example, where we might be using Copilot at the moment to generate a presentation, for example, maybe we're going to be able to actually ask, we're going to say to Copilot, say, can you please generate me a presentation, including all of the financial statistics for the last month from Sage Intacct, and it's going to be able to actually populate that presentation for you with the data that you are expecting to see. To make it all sound a little bit more mystic and a bit more kind of cloak and dagger, from finance system to autonomous AI platform, if anyone really wanted a bit of a tagline. But I like to give a bit more of an example and not keep it quite so mystic. So Sage Gateway, it's not just the integration, it's literally enabling the AI to move across these business systems, whether that's going to be giving us insights, whether that's going to be actually generating any kind of documents or moving things through workflows and processes. So what we can see here, and I think this encapsulates kind of how AI is going to change a lot of things regarding the finance team, is that traditionally we'd have to have a lot of reliance on the finance team if we wanted any answers around financial questions. But obviously, where anyone can use Copilot, or certainly you learn to use Copilot, you're going to be able to actually retrieve a lot of this financial information and insight yourself as a user. So there we can see down at the bottom, we've got a couple of examples. So sales could be like saying, where's my customer payment status? Operations is what spend on suppliers this quarter, and then leadership are also going to have numerous amounts of questions themselves. I've got a couple of more specific scenarios of how you might be able to use the AI Gateway in the future, or the Sage Intacct AI Gateway. And we can see here, we've got a scenario that sales, finance, and forecasting are all on. So what could it look like in the future? We could say the AI agent is going to actually pull data from a CRM, pull some actual financial information from Intacct, compare them, flag the gaps between them, and then also we can ask it questions like you can see there on screen. So why are we missing revenue targets? And actually retrieve an answer or an insight to why Copilot actually thinks that. A massive one again is reporting and performance tracking. So today, what does it look like? So finance teams have to export the data from Intacct, build up Excel reports if they wanted to do that within there. You could, like say, add on some notes, any type of commentary, and then send that out manually. Then with Copilot, what's it going to look like in the new age is Copilot's going to do a lot of this stuff for us. So it's going to pull that live Intacct data, build the report for us, explain those variances. And as you can see there, what are the changes is that we haven't had to manually actually build that report. So we haven't got that kind of delay and waiting on other people from other teams of just being able to ask AI there and then and receive that actual input. That brings me into an end. Thank you for staying with me as I've been talking through the kind of new AI and automation features. I'm going to actually hand over to my colleague, Chris Howcroft, for the last few minutes, and he's going to be able to talk a little bit more about kind of 250 and some of the AI and automation offerings there.
Perfect, thanks, Tim. Yeah, so obviously that was a really good insight into how AI can be used across business systems. Obviously, we had a little bit of a look at Sage Intacct, which is obviously embedding AI within the core platform itself. Obviously, that's really forward in terms of its advancements with AI been sort of enabled within various bits of functionality, but also we want to look at how Sage 200 and Sage 50 are getting some of this functionality. So yeah, how do we get started with Sage 50 or Sage 200? So maybe we're in a position where Sage 200 is the right solution for us still, is benefiting the business, but we want to get more from it. We want to start using AI and automation alongside these platforms. Maybe we have a plan to get onto Sage Intacct in the future, but we want to start getting the business ready to use some of this automation technology. We can already do some of that really easily with some of the value add solutions. So Tim mentioned Use before, for example. Use works with Sage 200 and Sage 50, as do a number of the other AP automation solutions, which use AI within their solutions. There's also reporting solutions. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at a platform called Phocas in just a second. But before we really get to any of this, and before we start saying, well, how do I switch AI on, or how do I use AI in my day-to-day, we need to do a load of prep before, because we'll all remember the good old garbage in, garbage out, or however you might coin the phrase. And that's really important with AI. We've all probably had a play with Copilot, with ChatGPT and the likes. And you've kind of probably made some requests or seen some requests online where you ask a really straightforward question or what you think is straightforward, and the answer it gives you is not what you expected. And that's really important, because we all have an expectation. Sometimes we generally, we don't know the answer, and we're hoping that system is going to give us the answer. But a lot of the times we know enough to understand whether or not the response is correct, and whether that response is correct or not will depend on the data that the AI agent has been fed or has gone and found in the first place. And so really, to get started on any kind of AI or automation journey, we have to actually start with thinking about, where do we want this to benefit the business? What do we want to do at the minute? What challenges do we have that automation or AI could help us with? And this can be things like repetitive tasks, or have we got pinpoints in the business or pinch points in the business where things just stop because we have a single point of failure, or somebody has to spend time gathering information before they can respond in a timely manner, and is the information that we're using and providing correct? So all these things are all really important before we even start thinking about how we use AI in our day-to-day, or how we use automation. We have to start thinking about this, firstly, so we know what we want AI to achieve. We can't just say to it, improve my business, improve turnover by 50% overnight, thank you very much, because everybody would be doing that. We need to be thinking about where can we really take advantage of these tools, and then what data we need to sort of look at, and those processes to look at before we implement that functionality. We might think, why would we automate? Our business is running fine, our customer satisfaction is great, we're delivering our product, we're doing what we do. Why would we need to automate in the first place? Obviously, the idea is not necessarily to replace people. That's both within the business and generally. It's, can we make better use of the skills that these people have? Is there things that they're doing every day that we would rather them not be doing? Manual data entry. This person has a skill in a specific area, but they're spending 50% of their time keying data into a system. We don't want them doing that. We want the system to key the data, and we want to use their ability and their skill in a much more valuable way. Equally, we're all human. These people are all fantastic at their job, but people can make errors. They can key in errors. Computers, ones and zeros, as it's been for many years, they don't make errors because they're fed the information. As long as the information in is good, then the information out will be good. That single point of failure, that bottleneck. And whilst our customer satisfaction, our business growth may be great, it also enables consistency and also compliance. As we start to look forward to the future with the likes of e-invoicing that's already coming in across Europe and is likely to come in the UK in the next kind of 2 or 3 years, all these automation platforms are going to start to ensure that compliance is being met. That as a user entering in a system, you could skip a field that's critically important to some returns or some compliance documents that you need to populate. And by using automation and AI, we can ensure that all of that data is correctly entered and stored in the right place. And then obviously ultimately satisfaction by making the process of dealing with customers and suppliers easier, reducing errors, being able to pick up queries a lot faster. Business to business and business to consumer relationships are just going to improve. We're not replacing people. We're just making sure that the people are doing the right thing and the best thing in their ability. And so how can we automate sort of today? And this is even before even looking at AI, because to get AI to work across all this business data and business systems is all about getting the data into the system. That's critically important. And so we can do that with integrations, data cleanup, document automations, those kind of things. A lot of people today might have website integrations, or they might not have website integrations. They might be keying in summary figures into their system. So they might just be putting in a daily figure for website orders. That's really great because your account system is up to date, but that doesn't benefit the reporting and the AI that comes off that. We need granular detail to be able to apply any kind of rules and logic and analytics on top of that. Obviously, from an integration perspective, that can sit across all business systems. So we don't just want to be integrating your website. We want to be integrating potentially emails into a CRM system, integrating the CRM system in itself, integrating with our suppliers, integrating with our couriers. So that all this data is transitioning between all of our systems seamlessly. And again, that's all something that's entirely possible today. Provided that data is in a good format, we can link all of those systems together using a variety of platforms. Because what I want to really show you now at the end, and when we are really close to the end, is just how that data, when it's right in the system, can really drive the reporting and analytics further. So if I just share my screen with you. This is a solution from a partner we work with called Phocas. So they offer financial planning and analytics solutions. And kind of this is where you can really embrace AI on top of, say, Sage 200 or Sage 50. So whilst we don't have that Copilot functionality embedded in the system at the minute, by getting all that data into the system and using it as a really solid and granular data store, we can then use tools like Phocas to extract that information and apply logic and rules and sort of analytics on top of that effectively. So as you can see, this is Phocas. Just to give you a really quick look around, it has dashboards and things like that, which is usually what all the fancy stuff that people want to see. They want to see all the cool graphs and things like this, which is showing me sales by country, sales by customer, sales by warehouse. Obviously, the correctness and validity of the data drives all of this. We need to be able to get the data in at a granular level to tag all this, to be able to do all these fancy graphs. And for years, this is what has kind of got everybody really switched on, seeing all these cool graphs and all these visual, KPIs. And that's all still really relevant. But where AI is coming into its own is to take this one step further. So if we just go across here into our analytics piece and look at our sales, for example, what this is showing me right now is sales by period. And it's just showing me my current, my cumulative, my previous. There's not really any useful information here other than the fact that we have made some sales in a period. I can obviously use the standard Phocas functionality to, for example, show me this by rep. So this is going to show me by my sales rep. So I can see that Rob's top in terms of total revenue to date. I can see that Shelley's second. We can see their period by period performance again. Great insights. But what I really want to do is start asking some meaningful questions. So what I'm going to say first is, how about, so in Phocas AI, as we've got on the side here, I can ask it normal questions and it's going to use AI to give me some results. So I'm going to ask it, for example, show me Shelley Gilbert's top 10 customers, let's say. Or I could say, who are, it's plain English. We're just asking it a normal question. It's going to go away and think about that. And it's going to then show us how it gets to this result. So what it's doing is it's kept the stream of sales. So we're already in the sales stream. It's kept that. I won't run through all this. We're looking at total figures. It's going to tell us what kind of things it's changed. So it's turned off filters and turned on filters. And it's identified down here that it's resolved Shelley Gilbert is sales rep 20H. That's her code in our system, her cost center, let's say, if that's how we're doing this. And we've applied that on the sales rep. So it's I didn't tell it that Shelley was a sales rep. It's just analyzed the data and gone, right, well, Shelley's name comes up as a sales rep. So we've identified that and we've applied that as a filter. So immediately we can then see that our sales rep is Shelley and we've picked the top 10 customers. Based on value. So that's really great. So we can see that, and we can see that her top customer is Tallahassee, then quality, then geography, blah, blah, blah. what I could then do is say, okay, from these top 10 customers, show me the top performing products. And that's going to then take that data and apply further logic onto it. But we can kind of continue to ask it follow-up questions and dive further and further and further. Equally, we could say things like, actually, can you show me what monthly performance was for this sales rep? And again, it's going to redraw the report. So what I'm kind of showing here is how we can ask simple questions where previously you would have to go to somebody that's running a Power BI tool or an Excel spreadsheet and ask them for various copies of this or make report changes. By implementing AI into this is using Sage 200 or Sage 50 data, for example, that's got really good levels of granularity through integrations, and then being able to use AI within that data set to deliver meaningful information, sort of at the type, if you like, not the click of a button, but the ask of a question effectively, and being able to do that really easily. It can do things like conditional highlighting, all sorts. And, as I say, this is available to everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're using Sage 50, Sage 200, other systems, data held elsewhere. This system can pull in data from CRM systems. It's all about getting that data right. And that's really important takeaway from today, I would say, is make sure that you're integrating those systems, getting your core systems data granular, accurate, meaningful, because then when AI comes, whether that be in product or through a complementary solution like Phocas, you're really going to be able to embrace and sort of take advantage of that technology. There's so much more that people are doing with AI. Obviously, we've overran, so thanks to everyone that stuck around. Obviously, if you've got any questions, drop them in Q&A or chat. If you want to look at any of these things in any more detail, then obviously reach out to your account managers. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if there are any questions, but thanks for Tim for going through his part as well. And yeah, hope you all have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Chris. We will hold fire if there are any questions. But really useful insight. One thing I was going to say there is I think it is that, in summary, really, as you said there, Chris, it's about pulling that data into a place where you can then go and interrogate it properly, regardless of the tools that you're trying to utilize there. I think one thing I was just going to mention before we wrap up, a quick mention, something new from the Innov8 team, is we've recently launched the Finance Function, our podcast, where we are looking and having these conversations around things like business IT, AI, what good looks like in the future of finance. So if you are a podcast listener, feel free to wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Finance Function and Innov8 technology, or you can go to innov8.co.uk/podcast, and you can listen to the last couple of episodes of the Finance Function. But I don't think there's any more questions that have come through. Then thank you very much for joining us for this month's Virtual Insights, and we'll hope to see you on the next one.